Greetings, friends, and welcome to Dandies, a podcast where each episode, two friends share a recommendation with one another. We talk about what we liked, what we would change, and try not to judge each other too much over our bad taste. This week, we get our frag on. Let's go.
Will, this week, instead of disc dandies, we're going to be DPS dandies.
DPS dandies, damage per second. Am I getting that right?
I guess dandies per second dandies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the rate of dandies that you're getting on this podcast far exceed any other podcast you're ever going to get. This is quality content that is only available here.
Yes, we are taking off our casual, fun, outward appearance that we established in our first episode, and we're switching into our competitive mode where we're going to be like bottom of the bottom whenever it comes to competitive play.
See, I'm a little worried. Our first episode, we came off as, very friendly, very just into the fun of gaming and not taking it seriously and just there for the fun of it. This episode, we're going to be toxic as hell, right? Tons of trash talking in the chat, reporting people for being better at us. I am definitely going to get my toxicity up this episode.
Yeah, you can't do anything but grief noobs whenever you haven't gotten your stimulus check. I am raring to go.
Me too. So let's just go ahead and get into it. This episode is really the first one where one of us makes the proper exhortation, the choice of game. This was my choice. We are talking about the game Diabotical. So it sounds like diabolical, but it's Diabotical. And I exhorted Jordan to play this with me this week, and I'm glad that we were able to actually get in some fragging time together. Did a little duel. So for those of you who don't know, Diabotical, it's what's called an arena shooter or an AFPS. And basically, this is a Quake clone. For those of you who are familiar with the Quake game, it's that same very fast-paced, uses non-standard movement techniques to really focus on moving as fast as you can, very twitchy, and really focuses on killing your opponent in either duels or a team deathmatch, free-for-alls. So it's very in an arena type map. So very very twitchy. This game is available to play free on the Epic Store. So they've got that Epic Store exclusivity. And this is developed by the GD Studios. This is a studio that they consider themselves to be an esports studio. And this is their first game. And it started and run by basically old Quake pros. So, this game really ramps up everything that makes the Quake franchise as competitive as it is. So this is really designed to be an esport type game. For those of you that are familiar with the Quake games, they're very gritty and dark. But this game actually takes the opposite approach and really adopts a very colorful outward, like a very cheery aesthetic, and you play as these very colorful round bots or egg bots as they call them. They're really cute, and you can really customize them with all sorts of bright colors and stickers. So I'm a big fan of this game, and Jordan had not played it before. So Jordan, I gotta ask you off the top, did you like this game?
Before I jump into that, I did want to recognize to your earlier point about this being like the first exhorted episode of Disc Dandies that this is in a big sense, I guess our first real episode of the show, because one of us has now recommended something to the other and we are going to be picking it apart under that, guys. The thing I wanted to point out here, especially for a game like Diaboticals and how it carries into our future episodes, is that there is a sort of meta commentary that's going to be established here, which is who generally these sorts of games are for. So whenever we go into this first question here, talking about how we liked this game, how we like it is very different from whether or not it's a recommendable game. And I want to draw that distinction before we go deep on the, I guess the various angles of this game, because the answer to your question is I did like this game. I think it, for my tastes, is what I look for in a multiplayer shooter, which is easy to like wrap your head around the controls and actually get into the game and engage with the mechanics and the other players, but lots of layers of depth following after that.
That's a great point. Whether we like it doesn't mean whether we actually think that it's something that we would recommend to other people, or whether, on like a 1 to 10 scale, recommend, that we would give it like an overall high score. Because I like a lot of games that are just, I don't consider to be like very well designed games. So yeah, so keep that in mind for this this podcast, that we're going to be looking at it from both angles, but whether we like it and then whether we think it's like well designed and how it's going to play in the overall public space. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you like the game. Like you were just saying, did you find the mechanics of the game easy to pick up?
I do, and there's one of the things that sticks out first whenever I talk about or think about Diaboticals, because at first it was something that I don't even think we've talked about this yet. It was something that like I kind of bounced off of at first, but like within our first match, kind of like liked a lot, was the sort of floatiness to the movements.
Mhm. Yep.
Typically, that term is used to describe something that doesn't feel good, but I think this feels good because it kind of gives it not necessarily like a physicsy type feel, but like it's in that vein of like you have to think about where you're putting yourself, because there's a small like window of uncontrollability in your movement as you move throughout the environment, where you'll just kind of keep drifting just for a second after making like a jump. And it's stuff like that in this game. There are details like that in this game that I think are good, and things that you want to be in competitive shooters, which is like you can't, again, in a game like Call of Duty where you're running and gunning, it's very tight. It's very like the mistakes are not really your own. They're more like, the development of the game, or like, sometimes it can be too frantic, the maps can be too small, that sort of thing. In this game, in Diabotical, it's those like, sort of drifty mechanics where you're like, well, I made this jump. I thought I was going to make it. I did make it, went further than I thought, and I was vulnerable because of that. I wasn't thinking properly about my movement and the weapon I was using. And that's where the depth comes in this game. And that's what has drawn me into it so far.
Yeah, movement is so important in this game. I'm sure most of the people who are well invested and play a lot of this tell you that, like, the skill floor is being able to accurately move your character, your bot, in the way that you want it. A player who has stronger control over the movement of their character is going to smoke any noob that comes in and doesn't like understand the finer points of how movement works in this game. They're just going to smash them, because you really have to know how to take advantage of those weird Quake-like physics that were brought into this game, and that, as I said, it's a skill floor. You can play this game without really understanding the mechanics of the movement and all that stuff, but the game really expects you to know. When you first open the game, there's a tutorial that kind of very quickly explains some of this. Like shows you kind of a few of the basic tricks to movement, and shows you that speed of movement is important. So I want to ask you: have you ever played any of the Quake games before?
I played Quake 2 back in the day. Like I can't even remember the exact year it came out. It may not even been Quake 2. It was around that era, because I know there had been Halos coming out at the time and stuff like that. So there was a lot of like jibbing between the Halo and Quake communities in terms of like, what was the better shooter, but that sort of that was the era I played it in.
Right. Yeah. I actually didn't play any Quake games until the most recent real Quake game, Quake Champions, which came out in 2016 and was definitely a attempt at modernizing the genre. It had all of the normal like Quake aesthetic, the movement quirks, the iconic weapons, but it tried to add kind of like Overwatch like character based abilities, and those were mostly disliked by the community, who are very hardcore competitive players. They wanted to show off their skill and didn't want their skill nerfed by certain like game breaking character powers. So yeah, so this game, like I mentioned, it's made by old Quake pros. It's very much meant to make having skill in these mechanics really shine and really give you that advantage over people who have not mastered those mechanics. So, like I wonder, is that good or bad? There's obviously room for games that are super casual and want lots of people to play them, like Fall Guys we talked about last episode. And then there's room for games that are very high skill floor. So, like I just wonder, is this game going to flourish with having such a high barrier to entry to doing well?
First of all, we're establishing that old timey Quake players are crybabies. Any amount of change is too much for them.
They literally created their own game because they didn't like how the current iteration of the game was going. So they were like, no, we're just gonna make our own game.
Okay, yeah. So going back to my crybaby statement, my response to people who say like, "Well, I don't like this change you made," is like, "Okay, well, fine, go make your own Quake." And you can't really use it here because they did. So I guess props to them for that. They were salty enough that they were like, "No, I'm gonna go make my own Quake." So to answer your question, I don't. The way the game is currently designed, and we're about to go hard on this, I assume, because this is something we've talked about a lot as we played it. I don't think it can grow, at least not substantially. I think that they have a lot of archaic matchmaking philosophy going on, and I also don't. At least from what we can tell, there might be a relatively popular mode among them all right now, but I don't think the game has an identity in terms of like there being a signature mode. I'm sure most people play in free for all or something like that, but I don't really see that as a free for all mode isn't really what you hang your hat on, to be honest. In most games, like they're and maybe some might disagree with me, but I think that your game has less to offer if that is your if that is your mode, you know what I mean, as a game.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I on second thought, I think that was a bad question that I posed. There are room for both of those kinds of games, but for games to be considered successful, they have to grow. So yeah, that's the way to put it. Can this game grow, being a game with a high skill floor? And you're absolutely right. The main issue that we ran into were long queue times, and that was another complaint with Quake Champions, and I think that was for a different reason. I don't want to spend too much time talking about that game, but that problem didn't get fixed when they moved. When most of those players moved on to Diabotical. Yeah, there's a lot of different modes, and a lot of people only want to play certain modes. It's nice for there to be a good mix of things so you can do something different. But when your player base is already like the numbers are already kind of nerfed by that high skill floor, you got to do more to kind of get all the players mixed in and kind of kill these queue times. Because there have been times where I wanted to play and then I had to wait like 3 minutes to play the mode that I wanted to play, and that just kind of killed all the excitement that I had.
And 3 minutes in an online shooter is kind of like ridiculous. There are games, very popular games like Overwatch and like League of Legends, that have long queue times. They're different reasons than probably the reasons for Diaboticals, if I were to assume. Like I think that it is a player count and an active player issue that is leading to those long queue times. And on that note, I think looking at all the different game modes that they do have, I think they just have too many. And I think that whenever you have a small player base, if you really want free for all to be your mode, or if you want one of the team modes to really be your mode, I think that you need to limit it to one or two queues. And and I'll get into the other half of my point here in a second, because I think I'll go off on this tangent real hard if I go there now. But
Hmm.
I think that like something Overwatch did in the beginning, same thing with like Rocket League and other like successful multiplayer games or competitive games that have queues, is that you create one mode. And for like Overwatch, it was just team, choose any character, and it was that one mode for the longest time. It was just quick play. And as time went on, they added other stuff, but that was like after player base grew and they worked ranked into the equation. But from what we can tell, this game is just spread a little thin by the different modes. People will prefer different things, and if you want the game to be successful, you need to get like, especially a game like this that is fast and is so like simple. Like a good simple in the sense that like you can just kind of hop in and hop out. There's not a lot of like progression in a sense, and you want to like really lean into that by making it very snappy and quick to get in and out of in terms of like your matches and your match length. And I think that goes into my other point, which is our point really, because I think we both felt this way. The lack of a true ranked system, because they have 1v1 and 2v2 or something like that. The lack of like an MMR, at least as far as we know, something to gauge player skill versus another player's skill seems non-existent, and I think that's really bad for a game that skill is everything in.
Yeah, you've nailed it on the head there. And that's one of the frustrating things. You even okay, so there are two like main like categories of game modes, and overall there's like 12 different queues you can hop in if you want to. There's a number of quick play ones, which are nominally not ranked, but I would like to think that there's some sort of MMR matchmaking that's happening underneath the paint there. And then there's ranked, and ranked is very competitive, and like you say, a game like this where skill is so important, if you go into ranked and you don't at least have that minimum level of skill, you are not going to have a good time. It's actively going to be a bad experience. So you think, oh great, that's what quick play is for. Quick play is for me to go in and just have fun and kind of slowly work on my skills. But the problem, and I think both of us experienced this, was if someone in quick play is so much better than you, it still kills the experience. Trying to get better, because like if they're that much better than you, like you don't have a good time. So yeah, there really needs to be more work done, especially in the quick play queues. One, those need to be pared down to maybe just two, or like two. And also more MMR like matchmaking, more granular matchmaking in those queues needs to happen to make it a more equitable playing experience.
In its current state, I will say that that's been the most like feel bad experiences I've had when we played together or when I played alone, was just being paired with someone that was just ridiculous. And
Yep.
it makes it harder to get better with weapons or work on your aim or your movement or anything like that whenever you're getting popped off repeatedly and very quickly. And in a sense that forces you to get better. But I really think that some people are so much better at this game that at least as a newcomer, it can feel like I don't want to play this because it's really cutthroat, And for a game like this that has such a dedicated community, that you made this point when we were playing, their community size is probably going to be the same throughout its entire lifetime, or at least roughly
Yeah.
in that range. At first I thought that was like a fine goal for a game to have. It's like, hey, we're just trying to create it for this audience, because it's something that a sect of the gaming community wants. I think that that's not really a good approach in this era, because there are more things that will come over time that will pull from your base. As much as we might not think it's this way, most people don't just play one game. They may come back to it and try it and play it out some more. But I think in this modern era where you have so many games coming out at any given time, what's to stop another Quake-like game coming out and just stripping this fan base?
Yeah, you grow. Yeah, in this environment, you grow or you die. That's that's unfortunately how it is. If you are not a Fortnite or a PUBG or an Among Us or a Fall Guys, like who cares? You'll play it for a little bit and then you'll move on to whatever the zeitgeist is of those times. And you're absolutely right. The number of modes is part of what's causing the long queue times, but it is just number of players. Like getting rid of all the useless queues would help, but if they don't get more players, it's just going to it's not going to help those queue times. And you know, as far as player psychology works, you know, you have to give players, you know, at least the chance of winning and doing well, because that's what makes them want to keep playing your game. And a game like this where that's so hard, you know, they're not doing themselves any favors in terms of getting new players.
Going back to your point about the other games that are like kind of actively growing and retaining bases, I think that those games are evolving. They are changing, and even though they're the most popular, like the games you listed are on top of the world right now, and they've remained on top of the world because they keep adding and they keep innovating. They keep, or not necessarily innovating, but they're pushing their community forward, and they're giving new carrots for the audience to like chase after. And I think it's important, especially in a game like this where you don't have like weapon upgrades, you don't necessarily have like skill trees, you don't have any like tangible things that you are building on a meta level, that you do things that incentivize people to keep coming back. Because for a game to be designed the way this game is designed, you're hanging everything on the gameplay. You're saying like, look, you don't need anything except for this tight, awesome, like good gameplay. The experiences which you're coming for, that sort of thing, I don't think will hold the audience that they need to survive as a game for very long. They have to add on to this for it to grow in any capacity, and even just to retain the people that they have.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I will say in their defense, in GD's defense, they do patch this game every single day. Every time you log in, there's a patch log over on the left side, and every day is different. They're always tweaking numbers. I know that they've actually changed and modified some queues in the past, so they're doing a great job of like listening to that nitty gritty Uh, uh, response that the players have to different things, but obviously they have their own goals as well. So hopefully they're listening, and they'll like slowly like pare down some of these queue offerings, maybe combine a few. So at least they're listening and they're actively working on the game. And I think that, to your point, maybe that can be the change that kind of has this game evolving over time and helping to help retain players.
So my thinking here isn't not so because it's fine that they are making those incremental changes and stuff like that to improve the gameplay and like experience for the players. But I think I'm thinking more along the lines of like for instance, like Fall Guys is season 2, where they have added new mini games, like substantial additions to the game. Whether for this game, I would imagine it would be something like introducing a new weapon. Like one new weapon would probably greatly change how the game plays. I think that it's stuff like that that I think you have to kind of inject to a game like this, where the experience is largely shared. Everyone has access to the same upgrades and weapons as they play, and it's one of those things where, like, if that's the case, what's the incentive for continually playing this game and coming back? What is going to keep people on the line? And maybe it's just a disconnect between myself and the base that the developers are trying to appeal to here. But for me, I do need something kind of incentivizing me to keep spending my time in that game. Because, like, while I did enjoy this game, it's not something that I can find that I think is going to have its hooks in me forever. It is largely just the gameplay experience that you're playing for. And I think it's more just that, like, the sense of community and like shared events and stuff like that is more what I'm like appealing to here. More where my criticism lands,
That makes sense. I think that the community as a whole would be very against adding like maps. Yes, they would love new maps. They would never want any substantial changes to the weapons. Those are like those are, you do not touch those. They don't call the three most popular weapons the Holy Trinity for nothing. They would be very adamant to any core fundamental change of how the game works. But like new like silly modes would be welcome. New silly maps, or just new competitive maps, I definitely think is a direction they need to go in. You mentioned a bit ago, that that you need something that kind of like keeps your interest and keeps you wanting to play. I think the developers of this game expect that to be the increase of your skill. You should be playing this game because you see improving at this game as a tangible good that you want to work towards. Now, whether that's actually going to work and keep people invested, my guess would be not, but that is kind of like what they want the overall like the overall hook of this game to be, is I want to be the best at this game. And as to whether that'll work in the long run, I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to something I really want to talk about, is the customization and the aesthetic of this game. Like I mentioned, Quake is very gritty and dark, and this is very colorful. These cute little egg bots that jump around and murder each other with futuristic weapons. It's got a almost like Fortnite level of like color, like a color palette. Do you like the bright colors in this game?
This is actually one of like the things that I do really like. One of the most attractive parts of this game that I like is the aesthetic. I like the ability to like you basically, your eyes and mouth and all that other stuff that you put on these bots. They're just these orbs with arms and legs, and you can like basically get stickers that look like different body parts or like facial features, and paste them on however you want, and orient them and resize them and stuff like that all over your bot. And I think that is like a very fun and like great way to allow players to like customize their individual bots. I think there's a certain level of ownership that gives you over your bot too, because the likelihood that your bot is going to look like another one is actually lessened, because there's so much that you can do, and like so many different ways that you can orient the same sticker that makes them look different.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's almost like you're customizing a car, like you're playing like Gran Turismo, and you're like putting all of these like vinyl wraps on it. It's almost got that kind of feel to it. You can make your bot, which is just basically, I mean, it's obviously like a squat ball robot that jumps around, but it's mostly just like a blank piece of, I guess, ceramic is what it looks like. But you can make it any color you want. They give you all sorts of stickers to begin with, and you unlock more as part of the free battle pass, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But yeah, you do not look like anyone else. It gives you so much freedom, and I love it. And it's also a great way to make yourself stick out in like free for all modes, or in duel. The most competitive version of this game, or queue in this game, is the one-on-one duel, and that's where I feel you can really show off the customization that you did, especially if you're playing, highly competitive and you see the same people over and over again. You can kind of have an identity within the game. I do wish that there was more of a way to show off the way, like if someone killed me, maybe I could like see their bot, a bit closer. The fast pace of this game kind of makes it hard to kind of see what other people have done with their bots. So I wish there was a way to kind of show off a bit more. But overall, I love the way you can customize your bots.
Will, I just realized
So,
this is the Polly Pockets of competitive shooters.
ooh, yeah, yeah. I can't think of any other shooter where you get this kind of customization.
Yeah, and I'm sure that this very open-minded fan base will appreciate that comparison.
Polly Pockets are cool. My older sister had some, and I remember playing with them when I was a kid. So absolutely no shame in your Polly Pocket craze.
Yeah, great Polly Pocket game. 10 out of 10 in that regard. That said, I think a really like fun thing that they could maybe do is like when you get killed, because I think it's fast enough. It's just like a snap zoom to the bot's face.
Oh,
or
yeah.
where its face should be. Just like a snap zoom and then like kick you back into the game, just like you like I sort of think of the Borderlands introductions, how they show you the character really quick as they're like
Oh, yeah.
moving through their little opening scene. Just really quick, just like snapping into them after they kill you and then moving on.
Yeah, yeah, that would be super cool. I guess we should mention, you mentioned it a bit ago, but most of these stickers focus on like creating a face on the front of your bot. There are other things like package stuff and like caution and that stuff, but a lot of what you're getting are different kinds of eyes, different kinds of mouths, and stuff. So the idea is you're creating like a face, but you can get very creative with what you have. So yeah, the possibilities are limitless.
Yeah, as much as you seem to detest the phrase, your bot wins the category for most uwu.
It does, and later on, I'm gonna save this towards the end, but later on, we'll talk a little bit more about our preferred customizations. And to go into our next point, new stickers is actually a great way of monetizing this game. This is a free to play game, so obviously they're going to do the natural ways that games make money in this age, and this is no exception. They have a pretty standard battle pass situation where by playing and by doing daily challenges, you gain XP. And by doing that, you get levels and you get free items. And then you can pay money to open up the battle pass and get even more customization. The paid currency coins, you get some of those. You get more customization, some more eyes and nose stickers to put on your bots, and I think some avatars, some other things like that. So this is pretty standard. Do you like the way that they've monetized this game so far?
I think it's fine. I think it could be a little bit more robust. Like for instance, the bots I think could just aesthetically be varied more. I think like for example Peabody and Atlas from Portal.
Yeah.
You know how they're both generally, like spherical objects with arms and legs. I think this game could go in a similar direction that like Portal went with those two characters, and that you have your bots are all still arms legs thing in the center, but you could maybe have a little bit more freedom with the shape of your egg bot, I guess.
Mhm.
Because that doesn't affect gameplay. It's strictly a aesthetic thing. But I think what could really make this game's monetization or like cosmetic model like pop off is just having like roll cages and stuff like that. Just like weird, like crazy things that you can actually put onto your bot. Maybe like change like arm sizes or or like leg lengths or anything like that. Nothing that like gives you an advantage in like in gameplay, but just all like just make your bot look ridiculous.
See, it's interesting that you bring that up. I think that they actually specifically chose not to do that. I think the idea is because they want this to be an esport and be, as competitive as it can. I think they're specifically saying no one will ever physically look different. You can only change color and then things that appear on your ball. It definitely seems like their design philosophy is everyone looks the same geometry and shape wise. But I think that there's definitely some things they could do to incorporate your idea. Maybe in like fun modes, you could change the shape, or I don't know how they'd feel about changing the shape but not changing the hitbox. But yeah, that would definitely open up tons of opportunities for monetization.
Yeah, and so this will be one of the few areas that I say this, but I don't believe Marxism is the correct route for every decision being made. Yeah, at most yes, but in this instance, I think like aesthetic like choice is like a very people latch on to that a lot, and I like obviously I'm not a game designer. Maybe that there's some greater appeal to having like a sort of like generalized silhouette to your characters, your player characters. But I think that people like having some amount of like ownership over their appearance,
Yeah.
and they like crafting their identity in a game. And like having a game where you can edit your appearance so much, I think would greatly benefit from like just giving you like frame control, you know. But it's their choice, and I can't necessarily criticize them for it. It's just I don't see how it could harm them. Is my I guess rebuttal to that. It seems like that's like kind of leaving money on the table type thing.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would probably say that I think the stickers and color customization is enough on that front that they wouldn't need to dip into that. But I think you make a good choice. I would also like to take this opportunity to officially put on tape that it's weird to put sour cream in chili. And I don't know why people do it, and everyone should stop.
I'm gonna have to say you're wrong for that. And where is this coming from?
I'm just gonna say it. Sour cream and chili, no good. Now to move on, so when you play the battle pass, the free battle pass doesn't give you enough coins, and that's the paid currency that costs money. It actually doesn't give you enough to buy the battle pass outright. But if you play for a number of different battle pass seasons, you can eventually get enough coins to buy the battle pass for free. Those coins are mostly going to be buying one-off cosmetics available in the store.
It's a free game that like on the entirety of the experience is like is available for you to play and access without paying anything. I think them like almost hard monetizing their battle pass is totally fine. I am not a big fan of like DLC or battle passes or anything like that in particular. Like they're just things that like I am seeing in premium games that cost $60 now that I am not as okay with. But I think free games like Fortnite and Apex Legends and Magic Arena and even Diaboticals, like having a paid pass is totally fine and justifiable in terms of like bringing in money for the application. Because I think that if you want the application to improve, you do have to expect that like the business is going to make business decisions. They're gonna, as long as we are in the structured economy that we're in, uh, they're going to need ways to pull money into the game. And I think making it hard for people to through free means to get the battle pass, I think is okay. I don't think that's exclusionary at all. I think that it is strictly like a good way to make the game money. Sorry, there's a long form way of saying that.
No, yeah, no one could say that this is predatory. And this is like the game that's philosophy is all about. You do not need to spend money. Everything is available to you. You can't buy anything that's going to affect gameplay at all whatsoever. No new weapons, no new special abilities or anything like that. It is all up front. So yeah, I can't complain about this. I think it's a great way. If you're someone who like really likes this Quake-like gameplay and really wants to support this, you have a way of spending money to do so. And then if you're like me and you're just masochistic and just want to like have the boot on your throat when you play this game, you can do that too.
Sure.
I guess we have to also we mentioned this before, but this is an Epic's Game Store exclusive, and my understanding is they kind of had to do this in order to like get the game out the door and get that extra inflow of cash to get this to get this game where it is. That they kind of had to choose the Epic exclusivity to actually create the game. So I don't hate them at all for doing that, but there are some people that are going to be turned off by that, and people who are unhappy with Epic's like business choices and stuff like that. But just keep in mind that you're also getting that shrinking of the player base due to exclusivity.
Yeah. So this is probably a really good area to talk about this because it's going to come up in future episodes, I'm sure. But the Epic exclusivity thing, and really, I guess, video game exclusivity to a larger extent, whether it be like, Microsoft or Sony exclusive to their respective consoles. How do you feel about that as as an abstract concept?
I can't bring myself to be too worried about it. Of course, like I've never been an Xbox person. Our family was always like PlayStation, and I didn't start playing PC games until I was, a grown man and was able to buy my own PC. There are games that were on Xbox that I've never had the chance to play, but I could never bring myself to be angry about that. Like there is a business behind all of this, and they have their reasons, and I can't be mad at businesses for like protecting their IP in ways that they see fit. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's like anti-consumer for a game to only be on like one console or only be on PC. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but I wouldn't like I can't be angry about it. I know some people won't really feel that way, but that's where I am out on the topic.
So my view on this is I don't like exclusives as a concept. I think that it does hurt people that maybe don't have access to the money required to have all the systems necessary. But I think that I agree with you in that I don't think that they're wrong in the way that they've historically been implemented. I think that like owning a PlayStation and having benefits for that is not a negative thing. And of course, like if if a publisher or a console manufacturer owns game studios, of course they're going to release it exclusive to their consoles. On that level, I think that it's understandable and okay, but I think I would like as many people as possible to have access to all the games that they want to play as they can. Mostly just because it feels kind of bad to be, that 16-year-old, that got a console for Christmas. You don't have any income of your own. You could go 14-year-old, whatever. But like, not having access to the funds to have the consoles that you want, you get a little punished for choosing a side. And that's a feeling I don't like, but I understand why it exists.
I can't describe not having access to certain types of video games as being punished. I think that that's not really the way we should be looking at video games or most media, like because video games are a not something that people like absolutely have to have. Like I never got the opportunity to play Halo, and I don't think that like I had some sort of right to do so.
Oh no, yeah, no, I definitely don't mean it as in like obviously there are greater things that you worry about, like food, shelter, all that stuff like that. Those are things you have rights to. But I think that I feel this less about games that are owned by Sony and owned directly by Microsoft, and more I feel this way about titles that are,
Third party.
you know, yeah, the third party, and sure, like maybe like money was put towards the game by a publisher, which again kind of muddies the water a little bit more. But we've seen other games like Rise of the Tomb Raider, which was a few years ago. That was a timed 1 year exclusive to Microsoft consoles, which was a little like brutal at the time because I think that whenever I use the term punished, I don't mean that like like a rude act has been done to you. It's more like you made an informed decision and then the terms were changed on you later.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I know what you mean by that. And I totally understand in terms of like games that have no reason to not be on every platform, but aren't just based on certain business decisions, like just some sort of like exclusivity deal instead of just like Metal Gear Solid 3 that was specifically only ever meant to be played on a PS3. So I understand what you mean.
Yeah, and just to kind of like now become a hypocrite and contradict what I just said, I also think that it is a good thing that some of these exclusives that do exist now exist because they may not have had the chance to exist otherwise. And I think of games, well, obviously like Diaboticals. If Epic put money forward to help this game like reach completion and stuff like that, I am happy that happened, and I'm willing to pay the price of like an exclusivity type thing for it to exist because I think that that is a good thing, and that is a good price to pay. It's like, oh yeah, of course this is only available here. Like this game wouldn't exist for us otherwise, and that makes me think back to games like Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U, and soon to be Bayonetta 3 on the Switch. Those games wouldn't exist without Nintendo's money, basically. And I think that in those situations, in a situation like that, I think that the mistake to make here is to make the one I made at the top of this discussion, which is to generalize all exclusives as bad. Because I definitely don't mean that. I just mean that I think the concept of an exclusive is rough for players because it requires spending a lot of money to kind of get all the experiences. But I understand why they're a necessary evil.
No, you're totally fine. We know what you mean in good faith. So you're good. just so everyone knows, I want to make sure that everyone has a complete picture of who I am as a person. We are thinking about this podcast as a very positive place where we can, in good faith, talk about these things and disagree, and overall just try to find the joy in whatever we're talking about. But let me tell you, I can tap into my inner curmudgeon sometimes. So, listeners to Dis Dandies, be prepared for me to occasionally come out with a hot take and defend it to the bitter end.
Hey, I came into this podcast knowing that I would have to be talking to people who are wrong a lot. My opinions being right all of the time, it is definitely very difficult to talk to other people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, right. Yeah. So, I think we're in agreement here with the monetization of this game.
Sure, I think it's fine. It's up exclusivity, whatever. I'm glad it exists. I'm fine with it. They had to do what they had to do to make the money for this game because, unfortunately, we aren't living in the socialist utopia we wish we were in, and we have to. These businesses have to make money.
Right. Right. For sure. Now, this game cannot exist on consoles. Like, you have to be playing on PC. Like, if you tried to play this with a controller, like, you would never get anywhere.
I have determined that playing games with a first-person shooters with a controller, like I have been enlightened by my PC master race ascendancy, that like FPS on consoles not good. That is
No
a
good.
that is that is miserable. I tried playing Halo not too long ago on an Xbox, and it is archaic as all hell. And I'm so sorry for all the console users that don't get to use mouse and keyboard. I want to bring that snake back around to eat its own tail, back to the top of our conversation today, which is that like we talked about whether or not about like there being a delineating distinction between liking a game and it being very recommendable, and I think that we need to have a larger conversation about that because this is probably one of the best examples of there being like a gulf between those two opinions
Yeah.
that we're going to see for some time. I can start us off here by saying that like I think this is one of the games that I have liked the most that I would recommend the least.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. This game is hell. If you're anybody, and this goes to me for an extent, but if you're anybody who like starts feeling bad about themselves, maybe has like self-esteem issues or anxiety, and like you are bad at this game, this is only going to make those feelings worse. And this game is great for making you just feel like shit, just like you are the worst, and you don't deserve to be here, and you should just like throw your computer away and never try to play a game ever again. This game is great for making those feelings worse than they already are. So I would definitely not recommend this game to anybody unless they are the type who want to sit down and do the work to learn how to be super, super good, and then prove their skills against people who have played much, much more than you. Like I said, I'm a bit of a masochist, so maybe I enjoy the boot on my throat, so to speak. But no, like I would never like tell my casual friends who to play this game, or I would never like invite my girlfriend to play this game, who's not a gamer. So yeah, so I definitely would, it would be a limited area of recommendation.
Yeah, and I think that brings us to our next big bullet point. And this is something that we talked about a little bit before, recording in a previous conversation. The meta commentary we're going to have in this show is like each episode that we would like to touch on is the topic we're covering. We want to determine who these things are for in a larger sense, and I think that's a very interesting discussion here because we've already established that we don't think right now it has a lot of appeal to a larger audience. Despite it being a good game, it doesn't have the, I guess, the reach to pull in a large number of new players due to its design, whether it be matchmaking or its like progression. And like for me personally, and I think that this game is for like league bros, for instance, like people who get a sense of satisfaction out of just getting better. Like you
Yeah.
establish that that's probably what the developers are like appealing to, anyways. But I think it's a really narrow audience that they're appealing to, whether it be people who are already into Quake or people who just want that competitive experience and just want to be good at video games and love that adrenaline rush of a fast-paced quick match. I think this is the audience that that's for.
Yeah.
What are your
Oh
thoughts?
yeah, definitely. And there's not even like other kind of quasi competitive games like Fortnite, which are easy to pick up and hard to master. This is hard to pick up and even harder to master. Yeah, so that's yeah, it's a very narrow range of people who are just naturally going to want to play this or play beyond a couple of games. I think there's another thing that's happening here is that this is an arena shooter. It's different than what is super popular these days. So that would be like your character shooters, like your Overwatch, which are very easy to get into. Your battle royales, your Fortnites and PUBGs and stuff like that. This is a genre that is really hurting for good games that are representing the genre. So I'm wondering, like, is it possible for arena shooters or AFPSs to make a comeback, so to speak? Diabotical has a long way to go to be like the next big thing in gaming. But like, is it possible for the people who are really into Fortnite and all that stuff to eventually move over to either this a FPS or maybe another one down the road and have this be like the next big thing, the zeitgeist of gaming? Do you think there's any possibility of that?
Oh, I 100% think there's possibility for it, but I think you have to do the opposite of what Diaboticals is doing. Diaboticals is trying to appeal to an audience that has, as we've seen from its player base, kind of dwindled and it's narrow,
Yeah.
And I think that the next big AFPS is going to be one that bring something new to the table that may not necessarily appeal to classic Quake fans. I think it's going to be something that's actually like an evolution of the genre, because if people wanted old school Quake, I mean they would have just like come to this game in droves. It was a free game on Epic. It had and it was a front page game too, so it's had the exposure. Wasn't around playing this game to see what first week Twitch numbers look like, but I imagine it had some kind of presence, whether it be large or small. I think the demand in an arena first person shooter, people like the meta experience. They like memes, they like expression, they like customization, kind of like I alluded to whenever we were talking about being having greater control over your bot's appearance. People also really like emergent experiences. So if you're going to have an arena first person shooter, I think it would have to be something that pushes maybe more forward in the physics department, maybe like plays a little bit more around with augments to weapons. It would do the opposite of what this game is doing.
Yeah, those are great points. Yeah, it would need something newer. I have my doubts about whether Diabolical can be that, especially since it's been out for I think about a little less than 2 months now, and it has not super taken off. Now, Among Us took some time to take off, so maybe in the future. I have my doubts. I mean, I like the arena shooters. I plan on still playing Diabolical, but I really don't think that AFPSs can really make it as big as they used to be. Quake is a dinosaur. It's a product of its time, and it's almost a fluke that like the super competitive players of days gone by really flocked to it to show their skill. I think the current zeitgeist of game development really prioritizes easy to get into. And with just the natural skill floor that these games have, I can't see Diabotical or another game basically becoming like the next huge gaming thing. So as unfortunate as that is, I think just the times are different. Maybe that'll change, but I don't have a lot of hope, unfortunately. But I will, to my like-minded friends, I will, recommend this game to them if they want to feel bad about themselves for a couple hours.
Yeah, if you want to be a Quake bro again, this is the game for you.
Right. Yeah. So cool game. Not recommending it to everybody, but overall, a pretty good step forward in the arena shooter genre.
Yeah, I and just kind of like some closing thoughts on it before we get into our quick hits, so to speak. I am glad that you recommended this game, despite having reservations about it. After the fact, mostly just because it did kind of open me up to thinking more about what works today. In like modern gaming, and why we don't see more games like this today. And I think that there's a social element missing from this game that is present in other games that I think will be the ultimate thing that holds us back. Like you brought up Among Us a second ago, and I think that part of what made Among Us kind of crop up was that the game is your friends, not so much the game itself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, and I think that games like Diaboticals, like that are trying to hang their hat on mechanics, need to do something to make if they want to have that presence in the game industry that Fortnite and other games have, is they have to find a way to make it social, to bring people into the experience and make it feel more shared.
Yeah, that's a great point. Hopefully, they can find a way to do that because right now it's very isolated. Unless you have something outside the game that is creating community, like a clan or something, or a group of like esports, like an esports team or something like that. There's nothing inside the game that's really holding people together. Yeah, so that's a great point.
Okay.
All right, okay. So I got a few quick hits I wanted to get into to top things off here. Have you won any games?
I have not. I've split my time in Diaboticals about 50-50 between playing with you and playing by myself. You have absolutely beat the shit out of me every time we've played
Oh,
together.
no, 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 no. The one time we did a one-on-one aim arena, you got me 4-2. So I actually think you
Okay,
might be a
well,
little better than I am.
okay, so in games where it hasn't just been us 1v1, you have crushed me in terms of scoring points. Whether it just be like our 1v1 matchup may be favoring me, I think you have the better overall skill set. Whenever we're in an arena with a bunch of other people, especially in free for all.
I think that I'm just better at taking advantage of the chaos while in an aim arena I was trying to be like super no scope point and click rifling you from far away and you were just like no I'm just gonna spam you with rockets until you die from residual damage. So you definitely out meted me.
I just I would like to call myself some sort of mastermind or some kind of like physics genius, but I sniff my glue, I shoot my rockets. That's what I do in this game.
Oh, you big brained me for sure. I have one time I did get into the one-on-one aim arenas for a little bit and got absolutely stomped, and then eventually got to the point where I was being matched with people where I was kind of like winning about 50% of the time, and then I won. I got first place in one free for all, and that's about the extent of my achievements at this game.
That better than I have had, I would say.
Sure. What's there are 9 different weapons in Diabolical, maybe including melee, I'm not sure, but what's your favorite weapon?
Okay, so we already talked about it a little bit, but the rocket launcher by a mile. It is. I love rocket launchers in games that allow you to be like mobile while using them. Like Halo is one of the ones that comes to mind because you have a lot of jumping and like like diving out of like a mobile flight. I guess vehicles and stuff like that. I like games that allow me to go boom while moving fast, and this game does that.
Oh yeah, for sure. The rocket launcher, high damage, especially if you get a square hit, but very slow rocket, so hard to aim. Takes a lot of kind of leading the shot, and it seems like easy mode, but it really does take some effort to get really good at it. And it's one of those very classic Quake weapons. Can you rocket jump well?
No, I cannot. I'm terrible at it. I've tried it a couple of times and just killed myself. I will say though that projectiles in games are projectile weapons in games. I love. I love the like one of the most satisfying feelings in a game is when you're like leading a target and while they're moving and you hit it. It is so good. I love that more than anything, and that's why I'm drawn to stuff like the rocket launcher, because there is like, sure, you can like kind of make the joke like, oh yeah, I'm just going boom, but there is a sort of like, Zach Galifianakis like inside your head like math equation happening as you're like, aiming ahead of your opponent.
Yeah, you're definitely the big brain player between the two of us. Me, my favorite weapon is the super shotgun, just like pellets to the face.
You're
Hard
just the Doom guy.
A Doom guy, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to aim. You have to get that square hit, but if you can get into close range and hit like one of those perfectly, you like it just does so much damage, and it really helps like clearing out like little short like hallways, like confined spaces. It's really good. It's really good there, and really helps you take advantage of being able to move really quickly. And if you're not that great a shot, it actually does a good job of kind of just like chipping away at their life total. Unlike the rifle, which does great damage, but you really got to have that pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah. Well, so that is, I do really like the shotgun in this game. I'm terrible with it because I feel like I'm always just too far away. But anytime you've had the shotgun, especially in our 1v1, it was really rough for me.
Yeah, I think most of the kills that you got on me, other than when you were spamming me with rockets, was also with the super shotgun. I remember you making good use of that the last time we played in a free for all.
Yeah, it was good.
All right, so what's your favorite map? I don't know the names of any of the maps, but like I know them by sight. Did you have one that you can describe that you liked a lot?
I'm actually just going to rib this game really hard in this category. I think that again, I really want this podcast to be a very positive thing, but sorry, we're going to have some stuff that we have issues with. I think the map design in this game is just very forgettable. Again, do not mean that as like, like an insult to the people who came up with the map designs, but like they are very samey,
Sure.
that's my take on it. I like the functional design of the maps. I think that part is good, but in terms of aesthetic, I think they look pretty, but they're mostly the same, and I probably couldn't tell you the difference between the two.
Yeah, that totally makes a sense. Makes a lot of sense. The time that they put into the maps was clearly to like create like
A good
interesting
gameplay experience.
good gameplay experience, very interesting like lanes of movement that you can only see if you're good at moving. Like if you ever get up to like the top like parts of the of all the different maps, there's all sorts of like little paths you can take to like do things, but like unless you're like good enough to actually get up there and like start doing those things, you'll never see it. So if the maps seem a little bland, it's because you have to be good at the game to see like the interesting design parts of the map. Uh,
So your response to my answer was "Get good, bro." I'll take it.
I think it was. I like the pirate ship. There's a pirate ship map that's pretty cool, and there's another one that has like it's like a big white building, and like there's a big inside area, and then there's like a circular outside part of it. I couldn't tell you the name of it, but that's my favorite map.
We'll have to jump back in so I can see the pirate ship one because I just do not remember it.
Yeah, to your point, yeah, exactly. I have one more question for you. We talked all about customization of these egg bots. Describe your egg bot. What design have you gone with and stuck
Uh, one sentence to lead my description, but get to the chopper. That's
with?
that's currently my Xbox appearance. My Xbox appearance is it's got two very like sort of angry dead eyes, and then like just a big old like Arnold Schwarzenegger screaming mouth. Uh, it's very funny every time I log in and look at it. I thought the last two times that we hopped on to play, I wanted to be like, hey, look at my bot, Will, and then I remembered I had already shown you.
Right. Yeah, I love those just soulless eyes. You just killed excuse me. You've killed me so many times that your eyes are just like dead with the weight of your actions.
I feel nothing about the blood on my hands.
Well, I gotta say, mine's very, as you said, mine's very kawaii, very cute. It's kind of like it's like a peachy white color, and then I've got the anime blush, and then like the what would you call them, emoji eyes. It's like the V's, when they like an anime person is like super like embarrassed, they've got that, and then the anime blush. It's very kawaii.
You definitely look like you were taken off guard. You very like a simultaneous like pleased but also embarrassed look on your face.
Don't shoot me.
Yeah. No shoot, senpai.
Right. Yeah, but that's all I gotta say about Diabotical. Fun game. I am ready to hear what you have lined up for us next week.
Yeah, just and one more time, Will, I gotta say, like I feel like I complained a lot on this podcast, but this was like a very enlightening like experience trying this out. And this is the kind of thing that I love about our podcast is that it's going to turn us on to games we may not have tried otherwise. And this selection was awesome because like it made me think about things that I just don't think about in other games, which is more just like movements and like weapon trajectory and stuff like that. This is and then also what I liked about other games that maybe this game needed to pick up on. So thanks again for like recommending this one.
Oh, of course. It is all downhill from here.
And I expect nothing less. So my exhortation for Will is Dead Space.
Oh, Dead Space. Oh, I love that game.
And Will acted surprised, but I already accidentally spoiled this to him because it went on sale the week before we did this recording. And I like part of our little agreement whenever we came up with this is making it as easy as possible for the other person to experience these things. And I was like, well, this is easy. I can get a copy for both of us for $5 on a Steam sale, and I did just that.
Well, I very much appreciate it. I hope this doesn't turn into just us just buying each other games over and over again.
No, not at all. We're going to torrent the hell out of some stuff. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. A parody. This is a parody podcast.
Yes. No. Absolutely not. I'm not creating an expectation or a precedent by doing that. It was just strictly it's on sale. This is a little cost for me to like make sure that he gets in on this with as easily as possible. Every other time you can just say, Jordan, you got to spend $60 if I have to, and I'll do it. I'm beholden to it.
Right. For sure. I love this game. I have played it before, so I guess this is going to happen sometimes because we are trying to do this as like a surprise for each other. Occasionally, we'll suggest things that we've both done before, but I'm really excited about this pick. I love this game. I know it's going to generate a lot of interesting discussion about flavor and about design. But just real quick, can you give me a couple of points on why you're choosing this?
Yeah. So first of all, this is one of not just one of my favorite horror games, but one of my favorite games of all time. And part of it is a time and place thing. It came out around this time 6 years ago now, I believe it, maybe longer. It was 2008, maybe. Anyways, October. It was Halloween season. I'm a big fan of the movie Alien. And so it just kind of had a lot of things line up for me whenever it released. Also, because spooky season, it's spooky season, baby. We're gonna get scary, and if I get another decision in this month, it's also I get just a hint. It's gonna be something spooky.
I think it's very time appropriate. I like I said, we're going to have lots to talk about, and I'm super excited for it. So looking forward to our discussion next week. So to kind of round out the episode, do a little back matter. Last episode we talked about Fall Guys, and of course we're not gonna just play a good game and just leave it on the shelf. I'm sure both of us have played a little bit of Fall Guys since then, and they just came out with season 2, which is medieval themed. Jordan, have you played any of season 2?
The last 2 days, I've played a lot of it. I think it's been 2 days since they released it. I believe that's correct. But I love the additions that they've made. I really enjoy the direction they're taking the game in. Mostly just that they added a second queue to the game. Jury's still out on how it'll work out for the game in the long run, but it completely excludes all the team games.
Yeah, which is really cool, and I know a lot of people have been asking for that. But my understanding is that's timed. That's not really supposed to be here's a queue for all of you, people who don't want to do team games. It's more like here's an event that takes team games out, enjoy it while it lasts, and then next week we're going to get something that is like even wackier. I'm afraid that people are getting latched onto this idea of no more team games when it's really just meant to be a fun new way to play the game.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's popular. Hopefully
Yeah,
it's
no.
popular.
I am definitely in the camp that like it's okay if they move away from this. I should have stated that it was temporary, though. I do think that if any of these modes that they introduced and like the timed exclusive things, I think if any of them are popular enough that they'll stick around.
Yeah, hopefully. I have been able to play a little bit, not too much. I have been able to play. I don't know how many new games there are, but I played the wall guys where you move the blocks and try to go over the
Hmm.
huge walls, and I played the gauntlet with the swingy thing. Big chonkus, is that what
Yeah,
what they're calling that?
the big Eatus.
I did. I actually got first place the very first time I played that round. So I'm a big fan of that new course. But I'm really looking forward to spending some more time after Dead Space, of course, to jump into that game and see a little bit more of the new content. Yeah. So Fall Guys season 2. Good job.
Yes, for sure. Fall Guys still a great game.
All right, and I guess that's going to be it for us this episode. Thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with your disc dandies. My name's Will. I'm at Agro Rhetoric on Twitter. If anyone wants to follow me, Jordan, where can they find you at?
They can find me at Action Pancake on Twitter and nowhere else.
Right. Follow the podcast at Disc Dandies Pod on Twitter. And this is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. We're establishing that, old timey Quake players are crybabies. Any amount of change is too much for them.